So here we are going to underline some basic concepts within the circulatory system before we dive into more complex concepts. So what is the circulatory system? When we think about the circulatory system, we often think of blood and how blood transports oxygen throughout the body. But we also have to remember that the circulatory system also involves the transfer of nutrients. So the circulatory system not only transports oxygen, but it also transports nutrients and it helps cells also expel wastes. Now, the main structure in the circulatory system is, of course, our heart, which we are all well and familiar of. It acts as the central pump, which is going to receive deoxygenated blood, send it off to the lungs, and then pump out oxygenated blood to the whole body. And as a result, we are going to transport oxygen. And when the blood interacts with our small intestine, it will transport nutrients. Now, I just mentioned that the heart, it receives deoxygenated blood and it sends it off to the lungs. So at the lungs, we have special structures, which we'll get into more detail later, but what essentially happens is that at the lungs, carbon dioxide is going to be exhaled out and oxygen is inhaled in. And when oxygen is inhaled in, it's going to be passed on to our red blood cells. And then those red blood cells will carry that oxygen to whichever cell needs it in the body. So carbon dioxide will be expelled, and then oxygen is collected at the lungs and transferred to the blood. Now, nutrients are absorbed at the small intestine. So remember, when we talk about the digestive system, we eat various foods, but then we break down those foods into nutrients, and those nutrients are going to be absorbed at the small intestine. Now, another thing we should make note of is that the human body is composed of blood vessels which carry the blood. Our organs and our structures in the body are not simply floating in blood. Blood is confined within these vessels. Now, these vessels, we have three different types. We have arteries, veins, and capillaries, and our body is filled with these vessels. Here we have a depiction in our hand. We have many different vessels, and then overall in the human body, we have lots of vessels. But each of these three vessels have a different, slightly different function. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. So we can imagine that if blood is being carried away from the heart, well, the heart is pumping oxygenated blood because that oxygenated blood is coming from the lungs. So arteries will pump oxygenated blood away from the heart. So arteries away. Next, we have veins. Now, veins carry blood as well, but they carry blood to the heart. So if blood is going to the heart, it's going to be deoxygenated and it's going to the heart to get reoxygenated via the lungs. Then we have capillaries, and capillaries simply connect the arteries and the veins. So capillaries connect arteries away from the heart and veins go to the heart. Here we just have a very simple schematic of an artery, vein, and capillary. So we have our artery, which is carrying oxygenated blood. That's why we have it denoted in red. Then we have our vein, which has deoxygenated blood, which we're depicting in blue. And then our capillary is just purple, which is the in-between shade of red and blue, which is connecting the vein and the artery. Now, something really important we need to understand, which is a misconception within biology, is that veins are actually blue. Blood is not actually blue. So a vein is carrying deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood is not blue. It's just going to be a darker red color. So we do this in textbooks for simplicity, where we color in the veins blue, but that's not actually the case. Veins will just be a darker shade of red to denote that it's deoxygenated blood compared to our artery, which is carrying oxygenated blood, so it's a brighter red. So these are just some introductory concepts we need to keep in mind of as we're moving forward in the circulatory system. So we need to understand that when we talk about the circulatory system, our blood is not only transporting oxygen to the cells in need, but it's also transporting nutrients and it's helping expel waste. And we'll get into more detail about each of these in successive videos. Now, our blood is the central pump. Our lungs are responsible for oxygenating the blood, and then carbon dioxide will be expelled here. Nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine, and then the blood will bring it to cells that need it. And the human body is composed of vessels, and those three vessels are arteries, veins, and capillaries.